Good morning and welcome to Liverpool Transfer Daily. Myself, Guy Clarke, and Ben Bocsak here to talk about what is going to be a Darwin Day, it seems, for the Reds. Darwin Nunez on the verge of completing a €100 million deal from Benfica to Liverpool. And Ben, on the deal itself, how excited are you? Not every day that Liverpool complete a club record move.
Absolutely. I think it's exciting times. He's someone who's still only 22 years older. I think he's turning 23 later this month, but he's very much in the prime of his career. And, he's already caught the eye against Liverpool, scored at Anfield. So there's been positive signs already there. And obviously it's still subject to a medical, but exciting times ahead, I think, for sure.
Yeah, you say subject to a medical. I think a lot of Reds fans come down in cold sweats, remembering back to Nabil Fekir and what happened there. So it isn't maybe a complete done formality that it will go through, but should it go through, and of course that is the full expectation. Now he is set to undergo a medical later today. What do you think Liverpool are getting for their money? Because at the end of the day, it is a club record deal, but probably prior to this last season, I don't think many people in European football would have been all too aware of who Darwin Nunez was.
Absolutely. I think, back to the medical question as well, like Liverpool will feel confident. They will know of the track record of the 3 separate knee surgeries that he's had to have, and they will examine that carefully because, as you said, this is a record investment, but they should feel confident. In terms of the player, he's one of the best young forwards in the game, isn't he? He had a very impressive debut Champions League campaign, scored a lot of important goals. And on top of that, he's strong, he's fast. I think he recorded top speeds in the Champions League, or he was one of the fastest players there as well as in the Portuguese league. He's good in the air. He's basically an all-round top forward, and I think he's going to thrive playing against high lines in the Premier League, when Liverpool do play against the high lines, which is very rare. But I think he's also going to do well in deep lying low blocks, where he can sort of bring his aerial and his sort of strength and physical side of the game to the fore. I think either way he's going to do well, and it's exciting because Liverpool haven't had that type of forward under Klopp. I mean, you can say Origi, but as good as Origi has been and as much of a cult hero he is, he never played regularly under Klopp. And with Nunez, I think the expectation is that he's very much going to go straight into the starting 11 because of the fee Liverpool are paying for him. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Liverpool evolve after this, and where he fits in, how Liverpool will play as well with him in the side.
Yeah, definitely. How exciting do you think that dynamic is? I suppose we saw the back end of last season, Sadio Mane playing as a number 9, albeit not a natural fit. He did very well there, but you would say he's not quite a natural number 9. Darwin Nunez, that is his role, as you say, will be adept at both coming short to link play as well as running in behind. We saw that certainly at Anfield. He was offside for a couple of goals that went to VAR, but it does all of a sudden point to kind of towards the next move for Liverpool on the pitch of maybe changing the style of play ever so slightly.
Exactly. I think and Liverpool have the players to suit that. Trent Alexander-Arnold's deliveries, he's been putting the ball in the box for, I think Liverpool's tallest player is maybe Firmino, who's only just 6 foot. Now he has a 6'2" target man to sort of aim towards. So same with Kostas Tsimikas on the other side, Andy Robertson. And I think it's going to be interesting to see towards the end of the season. We saw a bit of the 4-2-3-1 coming back at times when Liverpool were chasing games and they needed goals. And I think it's going to be interesting to see whether Klopp plays that 4-2-3-1 again. The likes of Firmino, Jota could easily slot in behind Nunez. And then you have also Harvey Elliott and Fabio Carvalho who are coming in as youngsters, and I think that's going to be an interesting sort of observation to see if Liverpool in pre-season do try and deploy that 4-2-3-1 formation, because Klopp really favoured that at Dortmund during his time at the club. And I think if people remember, when there were conversations around Klopp coming into Liverpool, people did expect him to play the 4-2-3-1. It's only just because he thought the 4-3-3 was better suited to Liverpool at the time that he went with the 4-3-3. So it will be kind of fascinating to see whether he does go back to that style.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Let's have a look in the chat box. Xavier's in there comparing, of course, Darwin Nunez to his compatriots Luis Suarez and Edinson Cavani, basically saying he's two players in one. He has got a big reputation to live up to on the international front. Michael saying he can't wait to see him. Pentia says another great signing. Let's hope he'll stay till the end of his contract. And also wondering when he will be shown to Liverpool fans. Of course, the hope and expectation is the deal can get concluded ahead of Liverpool, of course, reporting back for pre-season training, which is 3 weeks today. The international transfer window not officially opening until the start of July. But Ben, when you look at it as well, you mentioned Fabio Carvalho coming in, Portuguese under 21. Luis Diaz arrived in January from Portugal as well. Julian Ward's got these strong links out there, and it seems to be a market at the moment that Liverpool have really cornered and worked ever so well on in bringing over these, I suppose, unheralded players from a league that maybe is outside of Europe's top 5, but equally the star players within some of those star sides can certainly cross over quite well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's when you say it's outside of the top 5, I think it's only just really because Portugal do have some really strong and excellent sides. Benfica is an example of that, but also Sporting and the likes of those are very strong as well. And there's precedence as well. You know, Bruno Fernandes came into the Premier League and he hit the ground running. Ruben Diaz as well from rival clubs. So there's plenty of talent there, and I think Liverpool kind of realise it's a market where they can get value for money. Although when we're discussing Nunez, it is a big money to pay, but compared to other transfers, for example, you know, people will compare it to Haaland. City paid a lot less in transfer fees, but in terms of agent fees and wages and everything, it all adds up to, I think, being a lot more expensive than Nunez ever will be or was. So in that regard, I think Liverpool still see that as more value for money rather than going to one of these top 5 leagues where the sort of transfer fees for the likes of even Christopher and Nkunku that are being touted around are way more than Nunez's fee ever was.
And in terms of saying that as well, it seems as though the players who have come over from Portugal in recent times have adapted very well to the Premier League. I mean, a lot of people for a number of years now said the Bundesliga is quite close in terms of comparison. But last summer, you see, for example, Jadon Sancho come over, really didn't hit the heights that he did at Borussia Dortmund. And there have been, I suppose, other notable examples of that. You mentioned transfer fees. I have to get this in. Free Django says he's still going to be cheaper than Maguire. Steve Kerwin says the lad has everything, 6'2" and clocked the highest speed in the Champions League this season. And 6 times, just says El Nuno. Like to... let's see what you're doing there, and that is very witty and clever indeed. But in terms of Nunez then coming into Liverpool, you mentioned before, obviously the outlay, there will be a lot of clamour to see him straight away. But he is only going to be 23, as you say, at the end of this month. He is still a young player developing. And I suppose that bringing him in at this stage where the likes of Firmino still has at least a year left at Liverpool, unless he signs a new contract, and Mohamed Salah, hopefully, again, the hope is that he will remain at Liverpool to be on this coming season. That actually, even if Liverpool were to part with the ways with the traditional front 3, and we'll get on to Sadio Mane shortly, he has got that time to bed in before really being the main man, as it were.
Yeah, that's the good thing about him. There's no pressure on him to hit the ground running straight away. Normally, you saw when, for example, Luis Suarez left and Liverpool replaced him with the likes of Balotelli and Lambert and those kind of players. There was so much pressure on them to start scoring and hit the ground. But now, you know, if Nunez needs a bit of time, there's Diogo Jota who can come in, like you mentioned, Firmino. Salah will still be there, and Luis Diaz, I expect him to have an even better season, having adapted to Liverpool and the club and Klopp's methods after his first pre-season really at the club. And for that reason, I think that will aid him. Obviously, there will be some pressure because of the transfer fee, and everyone will be talking about that. I would expect rival fans to be discussing that a lot, and we've already seen that on social media. But I think in terms of on the pitch, there's no pressure really. There is time and there's precedence. Liverpool's signings under Klopp have always taken time to adapt, and like the likes of Kostas Tsimikas, Jota even, and they will get that time, and he will get that time as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Final point on Darwin Nunez. Thiago says, I'm Portuguese and Benfica and Liverpool fan, so happy for Darwin. It is going to be very intriguing to see exactly what he can bring to Liverpool. But that is an incoming. And before we go, it is only right to touch on Sadio Mane, Ben. And Liverpool have already knocked back 2 bids from Bayern Munich for the Senegalese forward. Expected this week that a 3rd bid will arrive. And it seems now inevitable a departure will happen. It's just about making sure the numbers are right for both clubs.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, Liverpool want the best value for Sadio Mane, and they will use the likes of Lewandowski and Gnabry as an example for Bayern Munich, who, Bayern are demanding a lot more for them than they're willing to pay for Sadio Mane. Whereas, at the same time, they're looking to replace Mane with those players. So Liverpool are right to ask for the best fee possible. But it is, I feel like with Mane, even though he had a bit of a resurgence towards the end of last season, it kind of felt like he was regressing a bit before that. He lost a bit of his pace and his speed, and that was largely the reason why Liverpool brought in Diaz and moved him centrally. So I think it is the right time to cash in on him now, because he's in good form. He's won the African Cup of Nations, and his market value is probably the highest it's ever going to be. And for that reason, I think it makes sense for Liverpool to move on. As sad as it is to say farewell to, I think someone we can comfortably say is a Liverpool legend.
Yeah, definitely. It feels as though it could well be a changing of the guard this summer, doesn't it? With the older outgoing and the new young upcoming youngster Darwin Nunez coming in to Liverpool. Well, there will of course be plenty on Darwin Nunez throughout the course of the day across on Liverpool.com as well as here on the Blood Red channel. But from myself, Guy Clarke, and Ben Bocsak, thanks for joining us here for the latest Liverpool Transfer Daily. Until next time, it's bye for now.